Yeah, so to your question about the Bangladesh Army chief, indeed, I don't think I know much more than you would. I have heard that he's been in Washington. Today we're talking on Friday. My understanding is that he was here earlier this week, but I don't know much about that. I mean, we've seen a very large number of senior Bangladeshi officials coming to Washington in recent weeks. Going back to when Yunus was in New York for the UN General Assembly meeting. And then you had the foreign secretary of Bangladesh spend a few days in DC with a number of senior officials of the State Department. But yeah, this is the first case of having a military official here during these last few weeks of engagements. Look, as you well know, the U.S. government is feels very comfortable with this engaging with this new government in Bangladesh, but it also, I think, is keen to engage with other key power brokers. And I think that this is the military in Bangladesh is not the Bangladeshi military of decades ago. It's one that prefers to stay out of the political limelight, that prefers not to be involved. But given the sudden severe political vacuum that set in Bangladesh after Sheikh Hasina left, I think it's really impossible for the army chief to avoid being involved in politics. And the fact that the army chief publicly suggested a time frame for elections, the only official to do that publicly at this point, that says something. At any rate, yeah, I don't know why he would have been here, but there has been a fair amount of discussions in recent years between the U.S. and Bangladesh on maritime cooperation, things like that, cooperation in the context of the Indo-Pacific. I'm not sure if that's what would have been discussed on this trip, but it is notable that he was here for sure. So to your question about Sheikh Hasina's allegations about the U.S. and St. Martin, the interesting thing on this, I did some reading, trying to get a sense of myself as to why we would hear this allegation. I'm sure you know this because you know so much about these things. This is actually an allegation that goes back many years, going back, quite frankly, to times when the Awami League was not in power, right? And there was a speech that a former or a Bangladeshi ambassador, pardon me, a U.S. ambassador to Bangladesh gave many, many years ago. I think it was sometime around 2005, 2006, something like that. I'm blanking on her name, not Marsha Bernacut. It was several before. Anyway, she said she said now. I do want to set to rest this canard that keeps coming up in the Bangladeshi press, and that is that the U.S. is trying to achieve sovereignty over St. Martin's Island. It's not true. It's completely false. This was like several decades ago. So clearly there's something to this, and I don't know why. My understanding is that there's absolutely no reason why the U.S. would want to gain access to this island for both strategic reasons and for logistical reasons as well. I think that we have to look at this allegation that Sheikh Hasina reportedly made in the broader context of her grievances against the U.S. and U.S. policy, which I think one could understand, right? Going back to, you know, U.S. support for the Pakistani army in '71, and also U.S. support for Yunus more recently. Her view is that the U.S. has tended to side with some of her most bitter rivals, and that this is a view. And so when she stood before Parliament some months ago and said that indirectly that the U.S. was behind a regime change, I think it was tapping into those longstanding grievances. And I would think that this St. Martin's allegation, which again has been made by other Bangladeshi leaders, not just her and not just the Awami League figures, it's it's something that's just out there, and in my view has to keep being rejected because I don't think there's any truth to it.